Imagine waking up one morning to the blaring sounds of sirens. The sky painted red as bombs rain down on your city. You rush to find safety amidst the chaos, clutching the hands of loved ones, not knowing if this will be the last day you'll see them. The world as you know it is crumbling. In every corner of the globe, armies clash, nations fall, and humanity faces its greatest test. World War II was more than just a battle of weapons and strategies. It was a fight for survival, for hope, and for the soul of humanity. Now let's journey back to a world torn apart, where heroes were forged in the fires of war, and decisions made in moments of crisis would echo across generations. The path to war. World War I, the war to end all wars, ended with fragile peace. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was meant to heal, but instead it brewed resentment. Germany was left humiliated, forced to pay reparations, and stripped of its territories and military might. The Weimar Republic struggled under the weight of economic hardship and social unrest. Many felt betrayed, their national pride shattered. This was fertile ground for the rise of a charismatic leader, Adolf Hitler. By the 1930s, Hitler and his Nazi party promised to restore Germany's glory. He exploited the people's anger and fears, using propaganda to craft a narrative of Aryan supremacy and blaming Jews, communists, and other minorities for Germany's woes. The world watched, hesitating, as Germany rearmed and annexed neighboring territories. But the moment that set the world on a collision course was when Hitler signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union, a non-aggression pact that stunned the globe. On September 1st, 1939, the world stood still. Nazi Germany invaded Poland, using a new military tactic called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Fast, relentless, and devastating. Poland fell in weeks. The United Kingdom and France declared war on Germany, but they could not prevent the oncoming storm, the expansion of war. Europe was plunged into darkness as the Axis powers expanded. In the West, the Nazi military machine overran Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and in a swift, shocking campaign, even France. British forces narrowly escaped annihilation at Dunkirk, a desperate evacuation that would go down in history as one of the war's defining moments. With Europe in the clutches of fascism, only the United Kingdom stood defiant. Across the English Channel, the Battle of Britain raged in the skies as the Royal Air Force, RAF, faced off against the German Luftwaffe. With their never-surrender spirit, the British proved that Nazi power could be resisted, and eventually Hitler abandoned his plans for an invasion of Britain. But the war's front lines would not stay in Europe for long. In the Pacific, another empire was on the rise, Japan. In December 1941, a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor catapulted the United States into the war. Suddenly, a conflict that had primarily been confined to Europe and parts of Asia had now become truly global. From the islands of the Pacific to the deserts of North Africa, to the icy tundras of the Soviet Union, battles raged on multiple fronts, with millions of soldiers and civilians caught in the crossfire. The turning points, the tide of war began to shift in 1942. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway was a pivotal moment. American codebreakers deciphered Japanese plans, allowing the U.S. Navy to set a trap for the Japanese fleet. In a devastating battle, Japan lost 4 aircraft carriers, the heart of its naval power, and never fully recovered. The Pacific theater was turning in favor of the Allies. In North Africa, the British defeated the formidable General Erwin Rommel, known as the Desert Fox, at the Battle of El Alamein. This victory marked the beginning of the end for Axis forces in Africa, clearing the path for an Allied invasion of southern Europe. The most brutal front of the war, however, was in the Soviet Union. The Siege of Leningrad, the Battle of Moscow, and most famously the Battle of Stalingrad saw some of the most grueling fighting of the entire war. Stalingrad became a symbol of Soviet resistance. For months, the city was a hellscape of house-to-house combat, snipers, and relentless artillery bombardment. But the Soviet Red Army turned the tide, encircling the German 6th Army in the harsh winter of 1942-43. After a crushing defeat, Germany's eastern front was forever weakened, and the Soviets began their push westward. The path to victory. The Allies knew that to win the war, they had to open a new front in Europe, and so Operation Overlord was planned, the largest amphibious invasion in history. D-Day, June 6, 1944. Under the command of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, American, British, and Canadian forces landed on the beaches of Normandy, France. Against fierce German defenses, the Allies fought their way inland, beginning the liberation of Western Europe. Meanwhile, the Soviet Red Army advanced from the east, reclaiming vast territories from Nazi control. Germany was being squeezed from all sides. By April 1945, Allied forces had crossed the Rhine River into Germany, and the Soviets had encircled Berlin. With defeat imminent, Hitler retreated to his bunker, where he spent his final days before taking his own life on April 30th, 1945. On May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe, VE Day, the world rejoiced as Nazi Germany officially surrendered. The war in Europe was over, but in the Pacific, the battle raged on. The brutal island-hopping campaign saw American forces capturing key Japanese-held islands, bringing the war ever closer to Japan's doorstep. In August 1945, the world witnessed an event that would change warfare forever. The U.S. dropped 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, bringing unparalleled devastation. On September 2, 1945, Japan formally surrendered aboard the USS Missouri, ending World War II. Aftermath and legacy. The war had reshaped the world. More than 70 million people perished, the deadliest conflict in human history. Cities lay in ruins, economies were devastated, and millions were displaced from their homes. The Holocaust, Hitler's final solution, revealed the horrors of genocide as the world learned of the mass extermination of 6 million Jews and millions of others deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime. World War II also marked the rise of 2 superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, whose competing ideologies would soon lead to the Cold War, a decades-long struggle that would define global politics. The United Nations was established in an effort to prevent such a conflict from ever happening again, and the world hoped for peace, though the scars of war would take generations to heal. Stories of courage and sacrifice. But amidst the destruction, there were stories of courage and sacrifice that defined what it meant to be human in the face of overwhelming odds. The resistance fighters who battled in occupied France, the soldiers who fought tooth and nail on the beaches of Iwo Jima, the civilians who endured the Blitz in London, the Navajo code talkers who played a crucial role in Pacific battles, and the Tuskegee Airmen, the first African-American pilots who fought for freedom at a time when they were denied basic rights at home. These stories remind us that World War II was not just a clash of armies, but a battle for the very soul of humanity. It was a war that saw the worst and best of human nature, where ordinary men and women became heroes, and where the world learned that the price of freedom was not free. World War II changed the course of history forever. Its impact is still felt today, in the stories passed down through generations, in the lessons learned about the horrors of unchecked power, and in the hope for a world where such a conflict will never happen again. The sacrifices of those who lived, fought, and died during this time remind us that peace is precious, and the fight for freedom and justice is one that must be waged every day, not with weapons, but with the resolve to stand against tyranny and oppression. As we remember the moments that defined World War II, let us honor the legacies of those who lived through it and strive to create a world where the lessons of the past guide our future. Because history does not just belong to the past, it is the foundation upon which we build our tomorrow.